Today's July 14th, 2018. My name is Alina Sergachev and I'm interviewing Beulah. First of all, thank you so much for having us on such a short notice, and it means a lot.
It's my pleasure.
Can you please introduce yourself before we start the interview?
My name is Beulah Cooper and I live in Gander, Newfoundland.
And can you tell us about 9/11, what you remember about that day?
I got a phone call, well, in the morning, it started in the morning. My daughter-in-law in St. John's called and she asked if I had my TV on, and I said no. She said, well, turn it on. And I said, what channel? Doesn't matter, turn it on. So I turned it on, saw the planes going through the Twin Towers, and I thought it was a movie. And I said, what movie is that? She said, that's not a movie, that's the real thing. And so my husband was downstairs working, and I went down to him, so we both sat down and watched it. I couldn't believe my eyes what I was seeing. And 7 o'clock that night, I got a phone call from the Legion asking me if I bring down a tray of sandwiches. I didn't know what was going on, didn't have a clue. So I made sandwiches and took them down to the Legion, and I asked what was going on. They said there's a busload of people coming in from the airport. So I decided to stay, and I stayed, and I think it was around 5 in the morning before they got there, or close to it. So I stayed until they came, and then I took some men down to the hotel to make phone calls home. When I brought them back, I took some women to the hotel to make phone calls. And when I took the women, Monica from Seattle, she sort of teared up, and I put my hand on her shoulder and I asked if she was all right. And she said, I'm just tired. And I said, would you like to come to my place for the night? Oh, I'd love that, she said. So I had to go back and clear it with the Red Cross. So 3 of them came up and stayed here. It was Monica from Seattle, and there was a lady from Brooklyn, New York, and another lady from Niagara Falls, New York. They were on a plane, return trip from Ireland. So they came up and they stayed for the time they were here. And but it was after when I went down to the Legion, it was 28 hours later before I saw my bed. I done what I could for them, and I took people over town shopping, and I looked after kids for the mother to shop, and I had about a dozen men up here for showers, not men and women, up here for showers, and Hannah was the last one. I wanted her and her husband to come up, but she didn't want to leave the Legion because she was afraid she was going to miss a phone call. And so her husband came up when I took him back. Hannah came up. And when she finished, I took her for a drive around town, and we were talking about things. And like, her son was a fireman and mine was a fireman. Because my son Aubrey, who has since passed away, they had a plane load of people in a fire hall. My husband was in the Masonic Lodge. He was down there with a plane load of people, and I was at the Legion with a plane load. So we were all busy. And but you know, we just done what we could for them, and it's only something I do every day. You know, there was nothing special for me, but I felt bad for the people, because you know, you got to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and realize how bad you would feel if you were in that situation. So you try to make them as comfortable as possible. But everything, you know, we made a lot of friends that few days they were here. And I remember when they left the Legion, we all lined up at the bar and we sang, for he's a jolly good fellow, and so long it's been good to know you. There was very few dry eyes when I had the Legion that day. They were, you know, comfortable there, as they were anywhere else. But the one thing I did say when I heard they were coming to the Legion, I said, thank God they're coming here, because I know they will be looked after. But I didn't mean Lewisporte, like here in Gander. But in the meantime, I said not that they wouldn't be looked after elsewhere, but I knew they would be looked after here, and they were.
And do you remember when you found out about all the planes heading to Gander?
Well, that was the morning. No, I didn't know that until, well, in the afternoon, or late in the afternoon, we heard all the planes coming in. We didn't know what was going on, so I drove down, and there was a lot of planes on the runway, and somebody said that there were the airspace of the States was closed, and Gander had the longest runway, so a lot of them came here. I think there was 38 planes came in, and they were all lined up on the tarmac.
So what was it like to have so many strangers all over the town?
Well, people befriended them, and they were referred to as the plain people. And they were out, you see them out sitting on the grass and different places. And, people were very friendly towards them. And like the arena was made into the biggest deep freeze, I suppose, ever. And people brought blankets and towels. The stores like opened their doors to come and get whatever they want free. You know, they could take what they wanted, like personal things like toothbrushes, toothpaste, face cloths, towels, everything. Everybody was so good to them.
And how many communities participated?
There was Gander, Appleton, Norris Arm, Lewisporte, and Glenwood. I think that was the 5. Yeah. But everybody just came together and done what they had to do.
And what do you remember the most about these 5 days?
We had a lot of fun, regardless. We enjoyed it. And like the O'Rourke's that lost their son in the Twin Towers, their nephew and his girlfriend was here. And of course, back then I was known to tell a joke or two. So the nephew kept saying, "Beulah, do you know any more jokes to tell?" Figuring they're going to take their mind off. But I mean, I knew you tell all the jokes you want, it wasn't going to take her mind off it. But, and he kept asking, "Got any more jokes? Got any more jokes?" And, but, you know, for the most part, they were comfortable here and they were happy here. And I remember on Thursday night, they phoned the Legion. The Salvation Army camp had their plane load they had down there. They were leaving on Thursday, I think. And they were going to bring the crowd from the Legion down. And they said, the only way we're going to leave here now is if you bring a shotgun down and force us out. But but not that they weren't looked after anywhere else, but just that they were happy down there and looked after. So they wanted to stay there.
Could you anticipate that you'll stay in touch with some of these people after so many years?
Yes, the 3 ladies that stayed here, well, one I just heard from her once, I think, and I don't know, she was from Niagara Falls, New York. And I doubt very much if she's still around. She was, you know, elderly when she was here. And the one from Brooklyn, I heard from her for a while, but I always said maintain. If they didn't keep in touch, I wouldn't bother them, you know. And we stayed in touch for the longest time. And then Hannah, we kept in touch all the time. And Monica from Seattle. Monica came, and her mom from Hinesville, Georgia, came down on the 1st anniversary, and they stayed with me. And on the 10th anniversary, Monica came down, and she stayed with me. In fact, her and I had a little part in the memorial service. And on the 15th anniversary, Monica came back again. And now I'm going to Seattle in October. And I'm going to stay a couple extra days with them. Because her mom was coming up from Hinesville, and it was going to be her birthday the day we were scheduled to leave. So I just took 2 extra days to spend it with her.
Wow, that's incredible.
So I still hear from them. And then I got letters and cards from people I didn't even know. They read the book The Day the World Came to Town. And they just sent me cards and letters, and I have all kinds of cards and letters and that I got from people. Another woman wrote me, her name was Beulah, and she said, I saw my namesake in the book, and she wrote me and thanked me, you know. And there were so many friends made. It's heartwarming. Because when you stop and think, it's only something you do every day. You know, it's not something new. Because I've been involved with the Legion now for 30 years, so so I was only there about 15 years when that happened. But I enjoy what I do what I enjoy, and I enjoy what I do. That's the way I put it.
And what do you remember about 10th anniversary when plain people came back? to town?
The 10th anniversary?
Or the first?
Oh, the first. Yeah, there was a few people came back on the first, and but I didn't get to meet a lot of them. But on the 10th anniversary, you get there was more there. The arena was packed for the memorial service, and I had gone to Washington, and I got back the night before the memorial service, and we were invited up there by the Canadian ambassador, and we spent 2 or 3 nights up there, which was nice. And but there was so many friends, and people are so nice and friendly. And I mean, it's like some of them said, to a lot of you people it meant nothing, but to us it meant a lot. You know, because they were in a bad place.
And what was it like in the following days after they left?
Oh, it was so quiet. It was so quiet, like the town seemed like it was dead, but everybody gone. But we enjoyed them all. Everybody done what they could for them.
Can you share some of the stories that struck you the most?
Well, Monica, one of the ones that stayed with me, one thing that really touched my heart was, after she went back, I got a beautiful thank you card from, I think it was 17 of her co-workers, and they all put notes on it, thanking me for looking after Monica. And that meant so much to me, like not just from Monica, but from all her friends. And when she came back for the first anniversary, she brought me back a letter and a deputy sheriff's badge. And she worked in the sheriff's office. And it was in a frame, and she gave one to the Legion, similar to what I had. And that meant a lot to me. And then when she came back for the 10th anniversary, she brought me another one from, like the first one was signed by Deputy Sheriff David Reichard. And then when she came back from the 10th, she brought me back another one in the padded folder from the Pentagon. And it was, or not the Pentagon, wherever, I forget now what it was on. But anyway, it was from David Reichard, but he was Congressman David Reichard. And hopefully when I go to Seattle, I'm going to get to meet him.
It's such an incredible story. Do you remember meeting David and Irene for the first time and hearing about the idea to make a musical about it?
Yes, yes. In fact, David and Irene and Molly stayed here for 2 or 3 nights on one of their trips. And like when he called me to interview me, I was surprised because, I mean, I've had media from all over the world in my house. I had them here from Vienna, Austria. And the same time that I got a trip to Washington, the Vienna, Austria film crew wanted me to give me a trip to New York to surprise Anna and Dennis O'Rourke. And I said, I'm sorry, I got a trip to Washington planned at the same time. And they said, well, we'll get you into Washington on time. And I said, no, they've been weeks planning this trip. I cannot do it. And they called me back twice to see if I changed my mind. But no, I wouldn't change my mind. And then, but, you know, they've been, like I said, all over. But I remember that in particular. And on the 10th anniversary, NBC came here and interviewed me. And they went back. And 2 or 3 weeks later, they called and said they were coming back again, and they wanted to interview me. And I thought, you know, that's funny. They could say, just here, why are they coming back again? Anyway, they came in, and one of the guys came in, and I asked if he'd like to have a coffee. And he said, okay. And he sort of hung around the kitchen. And I never thought anything of it. And Samson, the little camera guy, he came to the door and he said, Beulah, they want to interview you out in the driveway. I said, okay, as soon as I put my shoes on. When I opened the door, there was Anna and Dennis in the driveway. And their daughter was across the street, but I hadn't met her then. But they got exactly what they were looking for. And then I thought after, that's why he hung around the kitchen, because if I was here, the way my house is situated, I would have saw everything going on. But as luck should have it, it worked out that I didn't see anything. But that was, oh, gosh, what a surprise. And anyway, they were here for a few days, and it was nice. They wanted her to meet me. And we had a good time together. Yeah.
And how did you feel about this idea to make a musical about those events? Were you afraid to share this story, or?
No, but I didn't think it would go like it did, and no way did I think it would take off like it did. I mean that's so popular, that show, and I seen it in Toronto, and I was in Toronto twice. I saw it 3 times, I think. I was in New York twice and saw it twice. And because last November or December, I went up, my 2 sisters from Calgary and I went, and we saw it then. And they brought Hannah down, and we had a nice time. Yeah. And then when we were in New York in March, this lady from CBC in St. John's, Angela Antle, she said, Beulah, why don't you come down to Anna's house with us and we interview her so you surprise her. But already it's watched, every time we watch She's Where I Am, we sit together and she always holds my hand. And so anyway, I said, okay then. So we went down. I said, I'll tell you right now exactly what she's going to say, but I won't say it on camera. And when they opened the door and she saw me, it was the exact words she said. But and we had a lot of laughs together and a lot of fun. And like I said, I still talk to her.
And it's quite a personal story, your and Hannah's. Would you feel like seeing it on stage for the very first time?
It was heartwarming. It was heartwarming. Like you're sitting there in the audience and you're saying, you know, somebody is portraying me on stage. But they done such a good job of it. And when we were up in December, they wanted us. They asked me if I'd go up on stage after, because they raise a lot of money for charity. In fact, last week I think they raised $50,000 for the Daffodil House in St. John's. And I said sure. And so when I didn't know that Anna was coming down, that was a surprise to me. And David had asked her to go up on stage, and she said, no, I don't think so. So I put my hand on her arm and I said, yes, come on, you and I go up. She said, okay. So we went up on stage in about 5 minutes. They had $4,000 raised for a charity. They had nothing to do with us. We were just there. And then we were in there about an hour. And well, one of my sisters from Calgary, when we went up on stage, she said somebody put their hand on her shoulder. When she turned around, she looked up in General Rick Hillier's face, and she was so surprised, you know. But we were in there about an hour, and it was cold there, 2nd of December. And when we come out, this little boy, I'd say he's about 11, 12 years old, no more than that. And he was blonde, and he was there with his mother and a few other family members. And his mom said there's no way he was leaving until he got a picture with Anna and I. And, you know, he stayed out in that cold waiting for us to come out. That was heartwarming, you know.
And how did it change your life? Both 9/11 and the aftermath and come from away influence.
Well, I'll tell you, it made me feel good inside that I am the way I am. Because I've always been caring and giving. Like my son used to say to me, he said, Mom, there's one word not in your vocabulary. I said, what's that, Aubrey? And he said, no. He said, you say no to nothing. And it's true. And it made me feel so proud that I am, that I do feel that way. Because helping people, it just comes naturally. It just comes naturally.
Now we have talked to several people over the last couple of days, and we have heard many stories, and most of them didn't know what's really going on. Like some of them worked in the hotel at the time, and some of them were taxi drivers, and they didn't know the entire picture, how big it was.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you really comprehend, like, how...
Well, first when I heard there was so many people, I thought, my gosh, how we're going to go, you know, accommodate all of them and look after them, but we did. You know, people were so generous. There was a lot of people that went to people's homes, and the hotels were saved for the crew of the airplanes. Of course, they had to get a good night's sleep. And like people opened their homes, and there was halls, they had cots in them, and looked after them. For the most part, they were well taken care of.
How did you manage to arrange it so fast? I mean, you're not used to a situation like that, obviously 7,000 people coming by.
our population doubled.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everywhere you go, you see people lying on the grass. 'Cause it was nice at that time. And they were lying on the grass, walking uptown. You stop and ask somebody if they want to ride. No, we're just enjoying the walk. And it was heartwarming. I felt so proud to be a Newfoundlander, and especially a Ganderite. That, you know, everything was taken care of so good.
Grace, do you have a question?
Oh, sure. I was wondering, because you were talking about how you had the opportunity to see the play in a couple different places. I was wondering if there was if you noticed a difference in the way the audiences responded, or if any of that surprised you at all, or?
Yes, because the shows that I did go to, people were in awe. They couldn't believe, you know, what we done here in Gander, how we looked after the people, and they couldn't believe that, you know, people gave people, some of the strangers, keys to their homes, keys to their vehicles, and like you never hear tell of that, but people done it willingly, and just made people feel at home. But it's made you feel proud. That's one way to sum it up. It made me feel proud.
And what do you want people to remember about 9/11 and 9/12? How do you describe it to your grandchildren or children when they ask what was it like?
Well, one thing I always tell my family is always be nice to people. Speak to people like you like to be spoken to, and treat people like you like to be treated. Remember, everybody is different. Not everybody got a big bank account. Not everybody can afford this or that. You know, if you can help somebody, help them. Just one little good deed makes you feel so good inside. And I felt good that I was part of it and I was able to help. I really did.
Yeah, I guess, well, I don't know. Sorry. I'm trying to think of how to phrase it. One thing I had wondered, but you kind of asked it a little bit before. So when all the people were here in town, if people wanted to help, how did they know where to go? Like, how did they, you said there was a central location kind of where the big cooler was, that sort of thing, but did people just bring items there, or how did they find out?
Well, like there was the Legion, there was the Elks Club, and it was the church halls, the schools. People brought things to those places, like casserole dishes, bread, soups, and whatever. They brought it to these people. The arena was just stuff, like they had tractor trailers that just backed up to the arena and unloaded, a truckload of food and meat and everything. And they were well looked after.
Okay. So that was mostly people at the different, like the Elk Club or the lodge or the different places that then knew where to take it from there, or?
Well, see, each place, like I'll speak for the Legion because I'm a member of the Legion. We have our own kitchen there, and people brought in casserole. That was all taken care of down there and fed the people down there. And if we wanted, something didn't have it, well, we'd go up to the arena and get some meat or whatever.
Oh.
And there was one man there, he was a chef, and he wanted to hop out in the kitchen. And we said, no, you're a guest, like. And he said, I'm a chef, and I cook up, everywhere. So he just told me, get in the kitchen, help out. But people were nice, and they were friendly, and they were, they weren't irate or anything like that. They were good people.
Yeah, because sometimes even just being kind of right on top of each other for a short amount, even for a short amount of time, tempers can flare, that sort of thing. But you didn't really see a lot of that.
No. And they knew what was going on. They were just thankful that they were looked after like they were, and makes for a better atmosphere when people are like that.
Yeah.
But I can't believe all the letters and cards and that I got from strangers, And when we were in New York, of course I invited half of New York and half of Toronto to my place. I said, we don't all come at once. But when we were in New York, like there were several people that gave us their card, said, you ever come to, you know, whatever state they were from, don't get a hotel, we have room for you. And when the show was here in Gander, I saw it in the afternoon, I saw it at night. And when I went to the night show, this couple was sitting behind me, and a man tapped me on the shoulder after it was over. And he said, can I give you a hug? I said, I take all the hugs I can get and more besides. Because I tell everybody, I don't do handshakes, I only do hugs. And he said, I'm going to give you my card. And he said, have you ever been to D.C.? I said, I've been there once, I said, for a few nights. He said, if you ever come back, he said, I have a beautiful home and I have a room for you. He said, chance to pay it forward. And I thought that was so nice, you know, really nice. And there was, my son, when he was with me, was talking to this lady from Boston. He had a Harley Davidson, and he used to go down to the States. And she said, if you ever come back to the States, she said, don't get a hotel. She said, you stay at my house. And that was, you know, a lot of people done that. But a lot of them, I guess, it really opened up the eyes of a lot of people to see that, you know, the people here were so generous. And I mean, it is a lesson to be learned by a lot of people, because you never know when you could be in that situation. God forbid, but I mean, you never know. Not necessarily in the same circumstances, but you know, anything can happen, and you need help. Nobody knows that, you know. But I enjoyed. I made a lot of wonderful friends. Now Monica, I'm going to Seattle in October, and Monica's friends, they're all, oh, we got a bed here for you, and we got a bed for you, you know. And but I'm happy I'm going to get a chance to meet them. Really happy.
Are you excited that the show is going on to is it Dublin and London and Australia and all these other places?
We're going to London, and we're going to Melbourne, Australia.
Wow.
But we haven't heard anything about Dublin. I don't know about that. But it's heartwarming, it's exciting, and I don't know how to describe it. But what I'd like to say, the good part about it, at the end of the day, I'm still me. So I appreciate everything that's done, but I'm still me.
And how do you find the balance between privacy and all this publicity? I mean, you're so famous now.
I don't consider myself famous, but I appreciate everything. But I'm at the end of the day, like I said, I'm still me. But I'm happy that I was a part of it. I was happy I could help out, and anytime, like anybody I see and I'm looking for a place, like my son Aubrey. Now, one time he was over in States, and he came on across on the boat, and this fella was there, and Aubrey asked him where he was staying in Gander, and he was on an own motorcycle too, and he said, wherever I can get a room. And Aubrey said, well, my place is not the Holiday Inn, but it's the Welcome Inn. And he said, if you want to stay with me, you're more than welcome. So we had him up for dinner, and then he came back again the next year with his girlfriend. And he was telling my husband and I, he said, your son will make a good ambassador for Newfoundland. But, you know, for the most part, people really appreciate what you do for them. They do.
Yeah, that's one thing. A lot of people we talk to say, oh, I didn't do very much, but it's a lot to the person.
Well, that's like I feel. Like I only done what I do every day.
Yeah.
You know. When you're called on or somebody needs something, well, if you can do it, you do it. And it makes you feel good inside. It really does.
And do you remember talking to the plane people on the very first day when they didn't really know what's going on? Many of them didn't even see the news. How can you explain to them what happened?
Well, shortly after they got to the places where they were staying, they turned the TVs on and let them see. And I mean, I could see the look on one man's face now when he saw the plane go through the Twin Towers. Oh my God, it was a look of, disbelief. Like he was really shocked when he saw it. I mean, a lot of these people, but of all the ones in Gander, there was only one lost her son. He was a fireman. And when he was missing, she kept hoping, but anyway, they found his body on the 24th of September under the stairwell. Yeah, that was hard. He was 44 years old.
Wow, only on 24th, so she waited for almost 2 weeks to hear back.
Yeah.
Can't even imagine what it's like not knowing for sure.
Yeah. But you know, hindsight's always better than foresight. Like I've often thought since, why didn't I say to them, you come on up to my place where it's private and just tell your family to call you at my house and you can call them from my house. But at the time you don't know people and they're upset enough and you don't think about these things. But you know, it was hard to be here knowing that your son is missing. And he was like my son, he always wanted to be a fireman.
Is there anything you would like to add? Something that we should have asked about, maybe?
I just forgot.
Well, one thing is, I said it before and I'll say it again, made a lot of wonderful friends. And I was happy to do what I'd done to help out. And knowing that they appreciate it means a lot.
All right, thank you very much. I guess this is the end of the interview. I'll turn it off.
Sounds good.
You're welcome. Would you like a sandwich or something?
Oh, it's